All right, ladies. So thank you for joining me. Today we want to discuss an ethical dilemma that may be occurring inside the schools. And the dilemma that I chose is, should teachers give A's if students don't deserve it? So I'd like your opinion on, what do you think? Should a teacher, if a student is not doing well, not turning in their homework, um, not doing classwork, should they get a good grade for not doing anything? What do you think? I know it's funny, right?
No, if they're not doing anything, there's absolutely no effort being involved. No, you don't reward bad behavior.
Exactly, because eventually it's going to catch up with them. Um, they're not really learning anything. It's kind of like the conversation we had before about when a student is failing all year and then they go to summer school and they pass. Did they really learn?
Exactly.
Because the bottom line is learning. It's really not about the grades. Grades is just something we have to do.
So let's think about when parents call and complain. So, especially like during the pandemic when we had online learning, parents, we had students who never showed up online, or they would come online and then disappear, and somehow parents were upset because their child got a bad grade. What do you think about that?
Should have been parent follow-up. If the parent can't show evidence of their children doing work, how can we show evidence of it doing work? I mean, they always want us to have the evidence, but then the parent can't show the evidence that their child was in school, they did complete assignments. So I think also parents need to be held more accountable.
True.
And I remember that last year, I was staying on my soapstone because, we can only do so much behind a screen.
Mm-hmm.
I can only reach you but so far.
Right.
You have to do your part to connect. And the parent-teacher relationship is that in itself. It's a relationship, and you have to do your part. We share your child for 10 months out of the year. So I can only do what I can do here.
Mm-hmm.
What happens beyond that? There's assistance. There's needs. And if the child is not getting it all the way around, once that disconnect happens, that's where you get gaps. That's where they feel like, okay, well, I do this at home, so I can do this at school. That's where, well, mommy does it for me. Mom can't do it for you.
Right.
And so that might be okay in kindergarten, that mom helps. Maybe in first grade and second. But by the time you get to fourth, fifth, sixth, you're in middle school, there is no help. And you put students at a disadvantage because it's one thing to support, it's another thing to stifle your child.
So, as I'm thinking as a leader, have any of you ever had a principal or an administration come to you and ask you to change a grade?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And how did that make you feel? Because I know I have in the private school, because those parents pay for their child to go to school, and so we'd have arguments about, whether this child deserves that A that parent wants, but they're paying for it, so the school would, pretty much cave in. How did you feel when the leadership came to you and asked you to change a grade?
I've always asked you sign off on it. Let's make an interim or some kind of note that you signed off on it. So when that child comes back at the end of the year and does not pass the state test or whatever it is, but it shows they made an A, you need to sign off on it. And if you're okay with signing off on it, then I'm okay with it. But if you're not okay with signing off it, don't ask me to do what you're not going to do. I'm not going to be held accountable.
My question was to them, then why am I here? I'm not just a teacher. I'm not just teaching information. I'm an educator. And not just making sure that they get the information, but they learn it. If there's a lack, and it's not because of my doing, but an unwillingness of the child, regardless of the grade, there's no reason to give it to them.
Yeah.
And when parents don't feel comfortable with that, especially beforehand, you know what kids are going to be. So when you've been in this field for long enough, there's been multiple conferences, phone calls, emails, letters, and notebooks, and everything in between. So it's not as if it is something that came about in the blue.
Right.
You have documentation to back yourself. And if you don't feel comfortable doing so, again, like she said, you know, to have somebody else do it, have the administration sign off on it, because that not only puts you in a bad position,
Mhm.
but again, further down the road, and sometimes it's not that far, maybe it's the same track they're on,
Mhm.
then they're lost. Well, who was their teacher last year?
Right,
And it always
right.
comes right back to
Right back
you.
to the previous teacher.
It
yeah.
always comes back
Yeah.
to you.
So it really much comes down to us as educators taking a stand against what we think is unjust or unfair, not just towards us, but even for that student,
Mhm.
because it just puts them at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
Okay? Well, I thank you ladies for doing this video with me. It was awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have these deep conversations.